Our trip to the Wintergreen Dog Sledding Lodge in Ely, Minnesota, about 1,100 miles away from us here in Pennsylvania. Now this is the center of Ely, Minnesota, population about 3,500. Going down the main street for our first trip into town. And we have to find the Wintergreen Northern Wear store, and it's the one right there on the right with the red awning. We've already contacted them and they have our outerwear ready for us to rent actually for our trip, and you're going to get to see all the pictures because this is actually a photography tour for 5 days. It's early Saturday morning, so we got here early enough to actually try on everything to make sure it's going to fit. And there's Donna going into the store, and I'm going to follow her in, and hopefully they have everything ready for us to give it a try. And then we're going to go up to the lodge, which is just a few miles up the road from Ely, Minnesota. Scenic. That's one thing we can say about this trip. Being in the winter and with the snow up there, we got some really great pictures just to start the day. One day we actually went out in the woods and we saw this little creek running, and beautiful. And in the woods, all the trees, everything so clear and bright there. It was a fascinating trip, and the photographer, who I'm going to show you later, was telling us to take different types of pictures. We actually went on the lake here one day, a frozen lake of course, and they have these little houses for the ice fishermen. Really clear that day, no fishermen there. And then of course driving to the lodge was that's really scenic also. As you can see, snow-covered trees are beautiful, and this is the first lodge that we went to check in, and we're going to go to the main lodge again just another mile or two further up the road. So we checked in there and we're waiting for our guides to come and tell us what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day. And once we got inside, we were able to unpack a little bit because we're going to move, like I said, for the start of the trip the next day. And looking out the window, you can see the snow that they had. It's very high there, but the snow is really loose. And inside the lodge, we were getting ready for our meals, and we had a great chef. He made special meals for everyone. I want plain, and that's what he did, as you can see. And then he made vegan meals and vegetarian meals. All these dietary people were there with different wants, and he catered to everybody. And inside the lodge was fantastic. One of the dogs actually came in and was allowed to come in and play with us, and it was a real nice dog. And then we went down to the dog yard, and you're going to see me actually hooking up a dog. This is number one. This is a lead dog. Lead dog comes here, another one here, and two more there. All right, can I hook them up for my camera?
Absolutely.
So where do I? Oh, right here.
Yep, so this goes up to that D ring up there.
Pardon?
So his collar up here is gonna go on that, and then this part's gonna hook onto the back part of him.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so just on that, the chain's up there.
Right, anywhere in the chain?
Yeah, so like right there would be good on this one.
Okay.
Perfect. Yep, that'll work, and then you can put the... Then he goes right in that back one there. Alright.
Oh, easy, buddy, easy. There we are.
Perfect.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got him hooked up. How about that?
Alrighty. So here. And so tug line is the big chain that hooks directly to the gang line. Right to their back to you.
Right, okay.
And then their neck line.
Okay.
Neck line can just go through one of these loops. There you go.
There we go.
Alright. So
how about that? Whoop.
We got, what else we got? We got Marley coming your way.
Neat picture of Donna. You can actually see my reflection there in her goggles. This is the first day out. Donna getting friendly with the dogs that we're going to be riding behind. We actually have our own sled. We're in complete control. What freedom. Each dog has its own harness. So when you saw me hooking up the dogs, you had to go pick out that particular harness for that particular dog. He looks like he's smiling at us. Really cute. Now, the pictures you just saw and some of these future ones, the photographer, whose name's Layne Kennedy, had his own little sled, and he came to me and said, why don't you ride on my sled and I'm going to ride with Donna. So you see him back there riding with Donna, and he told me to ride backwards on his sled while we're going across this lake, and I'm there snapping. He keeps saying, get down lower, so I'm hanging on to his sled and we're going over across that lake, and that was a lot of fun. I took over 75 pictures. That one looks like he's peeking around to see what I'm doing. It was really fun. Here I'm actually laying on the snow in front of this dog taking a picture of Donna. And this is both of us on the sled, and that's how we rode throughout the trip. Very comfortable. Now, as you can see, this is our friend Dan, and actually the lowest temperature there when we were there was minus 47 degrees. I repeat that, minus 47. Now this is Taylor, one of our guides. And the guides actually skied. One skied in front and one skied behind us. And one day we actually stopped at this tent and they had to put a little fire in there and had lunch. This is our other guide, whose name was Brian. So between the two of them, we had no problems. They were very attentive to us. Extremely nice. That's Brian out there skiing, and they did some extra sledding so that we could go up on the side of the hill and take pictures. One day we stopped out in the woods and they made a fire, and we had our lunch that day out there with, they made quesadillas and all kind of good stuff. Now this is Layne Kennedy, the professional photographer, who really gave us a lot of good tips on our photography work and how we could do things. And this is Paul Shirky, the owner of the lodge. Now, if you Google him, you're going to find out he's a pretty famous guy who actually went all the way to the North Pole. Now, one day we went out on the lake, and the photographer set this up. Well, actually, it was Brian. He had the thermos of water and threw it up over his head and crystalled there, and it had to be really cold for that to happen. So we got some really unique pictures that day. Look at this steam. Remember I said it was minus 47? And one day there was a sauna up above, and Dan, the man who was in that red coat I showed you before, came running down the hill from the sauna and jumped in the cold water. And only 4 people did that because the rest of us were trying to take pictures. I think you have to be pretty brave to do that. And one day we went to the International Wolf Center. So we got some real nice pictures. They gave a talk and they had a feeding of the wolves. I was able to get some real nice pictures of them. Isn't that neat? We also had a brief tour of the wintergreen store, where they actually make the clothing. 15 sewing machines upstairs, and we got to see that. That's actually Susan Shirky, wife of Paul, so she runs the store. And this was our group. All had their own stories, so we were very fortunate to meet these people. We learned a lot, and one man was a retired naval captain. On the right there is the chef, and next to him is the photographer, and next to him is Paul Shirky, and there's a gentleman who jumped into the lake. His name was Dan. And driving back, we got to see all kinds of things. Well, both ways. I'm going to show you some pictures from both ends of our trip, because we were driving here into Duluth, and we saw Lake Superior, and we ate at this grandma's saloon on the way. And there's Donna pointing to grandma. We had some real nice meals right there, and they had the flight of beer. So, well, again, what can be wrong when you have a flight of beer? And we actually stayed at a bed and breakfast in Chippewa Falls on the way back one evening, and that was really nice and very comfortable. comfortable, and we ate at a chop house there downtown that evening. So we were able to eat at different restaurants and experience some different foods and see some real nice places. We actually stopped in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on our way home to visit a cousin we hadn't seen for a couple of years probably. Then we went to South Bend, Indiana, drove past Notre Dame, and we went there by this restaurant called the Emporium, and we had a really good meal there. And everywhere you went, you wanted to talk about our dog sled trip, and they were all so interested too. So here we are inside the Emporium, waiting for our a good meal to come. And then we drove to Lyndhurst, Ohio, and that's Granite City. Went there, and again, what can be wrong with a restaurant that has a flight of beer? And from there, we had actually prayed for good weather all the way through, and we were very fortunate that we didn't have any snow on the roads. And we ended up back in Uniontown, the end of our fantastic trip.